Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Okay, today our team will present about individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy towards online learning readiness. And let me introduce our team. Me, myself, Zulfalilla binti Salim, and my colleague, Associate Professor Dr. Aniza Ahmad. Okay, now we move on to the introduction. Online learning is a form of distance learning that takes place partially or entirely over the internet. Online learning can fulfill students' academic by providing quality education regardless of location and time if internet is available. And due to the pandemic COVID-19, the Ministry of Higher Education has ordered that all education institutions, public and private, conduct all classes through online learning started 40 April 2020. Online learning is becoming popular nowadays in educational institutions. The universities should re-examine student readiness and remeasure more comprehensively methods to help students facing all the challenges. And students should possess the dimension of online learning readiness to make them better understand this new environment of learning education. The student's readiness determines how his or her behavior changes. And the first stage is in structuring an efficient online learning system is determining student readiness for online learning. This is because readiness is a crucial input for the learning teaching system and is incredibly important in the education instruction process. Students must be online ready in order to benefit from online learning environments because determining students' readiness for online learning is more important than ever before for effective delivery of online learning systems. And for the problem segment, students' stress related to online learning and difficulties when completing assignment. Internet infrastructure problem also faced among students when it comes to online learning, and lack of interaction with instructors and lecturers, response times, and social interaction among peers will affect the student emotional intelligence. And the issue of students' readiness should be looked into whether they are ready or not to adopt online learning. And only a few studies on student readiness instruments to measure students' technological abilities to access online courses via computers, and little research has been done to examine self-efficacy of online learners' readiness with different level of learner control in a real online class setting. And for this study, we have 5 research objectives. For the first one, to measure the level of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, self-efficacy, and online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the second objective, to determine the relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness among students at UPM, to determine the relationship between emotional intelligence and online learning readiness among students at UPM, and to determine the relationship between self-efficacy and online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the last objective for this study is to determine the influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the research question, hypothesis and data analysis, we have also 5 research questions. For the first one, what is the level of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, self-efficacy, and online learning readiness among students at UPM? And for this question, we use to answer this research question, the researcher used data analysis, descriptive statistic. And for the second question, what is the relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness among students at UPM? And for the hypothesis, there is no HO1, there is no significant relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the third question, what is the relationship between emotional intelligence and online learning readiness among students at UPM? And for the hypothesis HO2, there is no significant relationship between emotional intelligence and online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the fourth research questions here, what is the relationship between self-efficacy and online learning readiness among students at UPM? And for the hypothesis, there is no significant relationship between self-efficacy and online learning readiness among students at UPM. And these three questions use data analysis, inferential statistics, which is a Pearson's correlation. And for the last question, what is the influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online learning readiness among students at UPM? And hypothesis for this question is HO4, there is no significant influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online learning readiness among students at UPM. And this data analysis use multiple regression analysis. And this is a little bit about conceptual definition. Online learning is gaining knowledge and skills through synchronized and asynchronous learning applications, which are written, communicated, active, supported, and managed with the use of internet technology. And online learning readiness means being mentally and physically ready for certain online learning experience and actions. And individual innovativeness is a person's ability to adopt, try, buy, or accept innovation, or an individual ability to understand, receive, socially estimate, spread, implement, and use innovation. And emotional intelligence means a person's ability to perceive, understand, manage, and use emotions to facilitate thinking and decision. And last one, self-efficacy is an individual's belief and expectation in his or her capability to perform a task. And this a little bit about literature reviews. Readiness to learn online is concept first defined by Warner Christie and Joy in the TVET sector, and there was strong causal relationship among the social influence, individual innovativeness, and perceptual belief, which subsequently impact on students' intention to adopt internet service via mobile technology. And there was a relationship between students' online learning readiness and trait emotional intelligence level. And LNSZ to 2020 also discovered that emotional intelligence has considerable effect on learners' preparedness for online learning. Bumble found a significant positive relationship between computer self-efficacy and student satisfaction in online learning readiness. And Li and Huang in his study discovered that computer self-efficacy is a very important and critical factor to student satisfaction with online learning or e-learning environment. And here we go to the research methodology. The research design is descriptive correlation study with quantitative approach, and the instruments used in the study is individual innovativeness scale developed by Hurt, Joseph, and Cook, 20 items, and trait emotional intelligence questionnaire developed by Patrick, 30 items, and general self-efficacy scale developed by Switzer and Sudhisalam, 10 items, and the last instrument is online learning readiness scale developed by Han et al., 18 items, and the total population for this study is 1,420 postgraduate students from the Faculty of Educational Studies at UPM, Universiti Putra, Malaysia, and the sample used 356 postgraduate students, and the sampling procedure used simple random sampling technique. And here we go about findings and discussions. For demographic data, from the table, it shows that 94 male students and 262 female students participate in this study. And for the first question, what is the level of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, self-efficacy, and online learning readiness among students at UPM? And the result shows that the finding shows that for the individual innovativeness, for the overall mean for individual innovativeness obtained was 3.65 and SD 0.402. The highest mean is item number 2, which is I enjoy trying new ideas. Mean UPM students enjoy trying new idea in their daily life. And for the emotional intelligence, for the overall mean for emotional intelligence obtained was 3.48, SD 0.434. The highest mean is item number 23. Is about I often pause and think about my feelings. So UPM students often pause and think about their feeling and they use their emotion to facilitate their thinking and decisions as well. And for the self-efficacy, what the overall mean for self-efficacy obtained was 3.62, SD 0.889. The highest mean is item number 6. It's about I can solve most problems if I invest the necessary effort on that. So if a student can solve most problems if they invest the necessary effort on that. And for the last one is online learning readiness shows that the overall mean is obtained was 3.67 SD 0.5071. The highest mean is item number 3 is about I feel confident in using the internet to find information. It shows that if students are confident in using the internet to find information, because by surfing the internet, it may help students increase their skills and knowledge. And for the here we can see that for the overall mean for individual innovativeness means UPM students have a moderate level of individual innovativeness and moderate level of emotional intelligence and high level of self-efficacy and moderate level for online learning readiness. And here we go to the second question. What is the relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness for students at UPM? And we go to the hypothesis number 1, HO1. There's no significant relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness for students at UPM. So the results show that there is a significant strong positive relationship between mean for individual innovativeness and the mean for online learning readiness. So the research hypothesis HO1 is rejected. And for the hypothesis number 2, there is no significant relationship between emotional intelligence and online learning readiness for students at UPM. So the results show that there is a significant weak positive relationship between the mean for emotional intelligence and mean for online learning readiness. Thus, the research hypothesis HO2 is rejected. And for the hypothesis number 3, there is no significant relationship between self-efficacy and online readiness among students at UPM. So the result shows that there is a significant positive, moderate positive relationship between the mean for self-efficacy and the mean for online learning readiness. Hence, the research hypothesis HO3 is rejected. And the fourth hypothesis, and for the question number 5, what is the influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online readiness among students at UPM? So based on the hypothesis, there is no significant influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online learning readiness among students at UPM. The results show that the combination of variables to influence online readiness for individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy was statistically significant. So from the beta, it showed that individual innovativeness has a 0.529. It shows that it can be concluded that individual innovativeness is the most influential to the online learning readiness among students at UPM. And for the conclusions, UPM students have a moderate level of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and online learning readiness. However, high level in their self-efficacy. All these 3 independent variables, which are individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy, have a positive relationship with the dependent variable, which is online learning readiness for student UPM. And the results show that individual innovativeness is the most influential towards online learning readiness. And for the conclusion here, we can say that for the hypothesis number 1, there is no significant relationship between individual innovativeness and online learning readiness among students at UPM is rejected. And for hypothesis number 2, there is no significant relationship between emotional intelligence and online learning readiness among students at UPM also rejected. And HO3, hypothesis number 3, there is no significant relationship between self-efficacy and online learning readiness among students at UPM also rejected. And for the last hypothesis is HO4, there is no significant influence of individual innovativeness, emotional intelligence, and self-efficacy on online learning readiness among students at UPM. Clearly show that it was rejected. And here, we recommend recommendation. We have here several recommendation. A mix of first of all, a mix of quantitative and qualitative research methods such as interview session may be used to obtain a more in-depth understanding of the phenomena. And this current research only use Pearson correlation. Future research could use other inferential statistics to further explain the predictive relationship between these variables and to explore this phenomena at a national level. a larger scale research for additional state or perhaps the entire country should be done. It is important to understand student online readiness in Malaysia since technology is well known and widely used in the education system nowadays. And more research is needed to discover the other variables or factors that may be linked to student readiness for online learning. Since the Ministry of Education also require all primary and secondary schools to conduct all classes in online learning, in PDPR, pembelajaran dari rumah, and in-depth study of their readiness for online learning can be observed in primary and secondary schools in the future. Okay, that's all. Thank you from our team. Thank you so much for listening.